Tonight, a fire ban goes into effect for parts of Saskatchewan as wildfires burn. Low water levels have docked Saskatoon's Prairie Lily riverboat. And we meet an Aussie kicker who's taking another shot at joining the green and white.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Friday, May 9th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. I'm Ethan Williams. Thanks for joining us. Multiple wildfires are burning across Saskatchewan as parts of our province are under a fire ban. The Saskatchewan Public Safety Agency says all fires so far this year have been human-caused, and as Jeffrey Tram reports, some of them are now leading to evacuations in some communities.
Fire season is off to a quick start in Saskatchewan. As of Thursday morning, there have been over 130 fires, double the 5-year average for this time of year. One area dealing with fires is the RM of Garden River, northeast of Prince Albert.
We had a large fire start on Monday. That one necessitated some evacuations, and it's now under control, but it's still of concern.
RM has declared a state of emergency with multiple rural fire departments, water bombers, and the Saskatchewan Public Safety Agency assisting. Officials say the fires were likely sparked by equipment failure and downed power lines.
All these current fires, they're all human caused. So if we took that factor out, the risk of fire would be very, very low.
Garden River has had its own ban for more than a week. Scragg says it's important to stay prepared.
The quicker you can react to it, the quicker and more likely it is that it can be put under control.
Scragg is urging people to stay alert and stay away from active fire zones.
All the resources of the province are being stretched at this time. So just a reminder for everybody to be careful and be cognizant of that.
Dates on the ban, active fires, and evacuations can be found on the Saskatchewan Public Safety Agency's website. Jeffrey Tram, CBC News, Regina.
And there are several other fire bans across the province that are in effect. For the latest on that and the smoke that these fires are causing, let's bring in weather specialist Helena Mahalik. Helena, what are we seeing so far?
Well, as Jeffrey mentioned, there are many active wildfires across the province, causing multiple fire bans to be in effect. Let's take a look at where some of those are just across the province. So as we can see here, it starts in the south part of the province, but it extends all the way to the Churchill River. We are seeing the majority of these in rural municipalities across central Saskatchewan, in areas around Saskatoon, and even southern areas in and around Regina, and close to the Churchill region as well. And as he said, many of these are caused by man-made conditions, and due to all these fires, we are seeing some air quality warnings in effect. So currently we are seeing some at 3 out of 10 for areas in the southwest and central around Saskatoon, Prince Albert. These are something just to look out for. But then as we get into the southeast, places like Estevan and Regina have more of a moderate risk. So these are definitely something to keep out for due to the high temperatures, which I will have more of in my forecast, Ethan.
All right, thanks, Helena. Meanwhile, it is low water levels that are causing problems for Saskatoon's beloved riverboat. The Prairie Lily is docked indefinitely due to low levels on the South Saskatchewan River. Ashwarya Duda reports.
For the first time in our 13 years of sailing this ship, the sandbars have increased to the point where we no longer have a navigation channel. There's no place that's deep enough for this ship.
The Prairie Lily isn't going anywhere right now. The riverboat's owners say the South Saskatchewan River is so low, they're canceling all cruises until water levels improve. It's bad timing for Mike Stekhan, who's trying to sell the boat and retire. He says canceling the Prairie Lily's final season would have a huge financial impact on him and his wife.
Well, I'm an old sailor, and it's really a lot of hard work right now to not use a bunch of 4-letter words. So that's kind of how I feel about it.
The Water Security Agency says levels in the river are about half of what's considered normal. Dry conditions across Western Canada over the last 3 years are part of the problem.
A below normal snowpack, below normal precipitation through the summer months, it has an impact on the amount of water flowing into Lake Diefenbaker, which as a result, you will see, less water flowing through by Saskatoon.
Stekhan says when there's less water flowing, silt begins to accumulate and sandbanks form in the river, making it impossible to navigate his boat. He's calling for the Water Security Agency to increase the water flow from the Gardner Dam and wash out the sandbars. But the agency says there are no plans to do that right now.
I understand there are hardships and it is unfortunate that occurs.
For now, water is being preserved for human consumption, industrial and agricultural use. The city's tourism agency, Discover Saskatoon, says the Prairie Lily is one of Saskatoon's most iconic experiences, and it hopes there's a way to get the boat back on the water. Aishwarya Duda, CBC News, Saskatoon.
With the spread of measles in Saskatchewan, public health officials are urging more people to get vaccinated, but that message comes at a time when public trust in healthcare has dropped dramatically. Researchers at the University of Saskatchewan are involved in a national study that's examining that dropping trust in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. Researchers say most people still trust scientists, but only half trust the public health authority.
Trust starts with truth. They wanted people who are in positions of authority to be open, honest, tell the truth, even if it is difficult. Even if it is uncertain, that sort of being straight, with people.
The research is timely considering this week's announcement from the Saskatchewan Health Authority. It says the province is officially in a measles outbreak, with the number of reported cases doubling in a single week. The province's chief medical health officer says vaccine hesitancy is part of the problem, but unlike other provinces, vaccinations are not mandatory for children to attend school in Saskatchewan. In Ontario, for instance, it's the law, and students can be suspended for failing to get vaccinated or not updating their records, but exemptions can be made for medical or religious reasons. We asked people here if Saskatchewan needs to make vaccines mandatory by law.
In Ontario, vaccination is mandatory to go to school.
Yeah.
Is that something you'd like to see here?
Well, actually, I think it's a choice, It's a choice for everyone. But, yeah.
I like everyone to make their own choices, but I believe in vaccinations, so kind of.
I think we should educate people and basically spread the correct information.
It's complex. There's nuance to this, right? Black and white policies are for, teenagers and dictators. For the rest of us, there's nuance. These choices, yes, parents should be obviously involved. I think your family doctor should be involved.
In a statement, the Ministry of Health says it is not planning to make certain vaccines mandatory for school-age children, but it is continuing to monitor other provinces that make them mandatory to see what impact it has on vaccine rates. The province says public health works with parents of infants and preschoolers, as well as children entering school, to bring them up to date on their immunizations. Prime Minister Mark Carney will name a new cabinet on Tuesday. He has previously said it will be made up of an equal number of men and women. The new cabinet will be sworn in at Rideau Hall by Governor General Mary Simon. Carney won the Liberal leadership March 9th, and he and his first cabinet were sworn in 5 days later. It had just 24 ministers compared to the former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's last 39-member cabinet. Carney has not confirmed the size of his second cabinet, but it may be slightly larger than his first in order to accommodate some newly elected MPs. Delta Airlines and Korean Air have announced they will buy a combined 25% minority stake in WestJet from Canadian investment firm Onyx. The deal is worth $550 million US. Under the arrangement, Delta would acquire a 15% stake in the Calgary-based airline, while Korean Air would buy a 10% share. After the deal closes, Delta says it plans to sell a 2.3% stake in WestJet to its joint venture partner Air France, amounting to $50 million US. We have an update now to a story we brought you Thursday about the death of Addison King. The 18-year-old was found dead near Flying Dust First Nation last month, and her family has questioned how RCMP have handled her death investigation. RCMP now tells CBC News that at this point they do not believe the teen's death is criminal in nature, but they will investigate any new information that comes their way. Mounties say they continue to keep in contact with Addison's loved ones, and they also have questions around what happened to her. Well, aside from a bit of a smell of smoke in the air that soon dissipated through the day in Regina, it was a nice day to hit Wascana Lake in a kayak or any other kind of water vehicle, especially since the winds were a lot lighter on Friday compared to Thursday, that's for sure. And things are starting to look a bit greener now that the buds are coming out on the trees, which is nice as well. This will be the weekend for getting outside for sure, although it may be too hot for some activities. Helena Mahalik was alluding to that, and she'll tell us what we can expect in her full forecast when we come back. Well, a lot has happened in the Saskatchewan legislature this week, especially when it comes to Western separation after the federal election. This all comes as Prime Minister Carney and Canada's premiers will meet in Saskatoon next month. That was the topic of the Morning Edition's Friday political panel.
The next Premier's meeting is going to be in Saskatoon.
Book your hotels, guys.
Yes, I'm sure we'll be going, and that'll be interesting to watch. But so Prime Minister Carney met with the Premiers after his meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump. And his meeting with the Premiers was just to really provide a debrief with how that meeting with Trump went. We didn't see any of those fireworks that happened with the Ukrainian President, Volodymyr Zelensky. So I think the Premiers felt really good about that there weren't a lot of tension there in that Trump meeting. But Carney and the Premiers also talked about, building up Canada's economic resilience, maybe big nation-building projects, removing internal free trade barriers. We spoke to Mo about this as well, and he said he felt pretty good after that meeting. He appreciated that debrief that he got, and he said there maybe is a more positive tone going forward with Trump on this, which he also appreciated. And he also said Carney's open to conversations on Bill C-69, clean electricity regulations, the emissions caps. Obviously, he's still saying concrete change needs to happen there for the relationship to get better with the federal government, but so far the tone is looking positive.
And Marie, what are you watching for with this relationship?
Well, whether the Prime Minister starts addressing issues of the nation, because obviously Western alienation is real. Eastern provinces have their issues as well. If Daniel Smith is making one really solid point right now, I think it's that it's patently ridiculous that Quebec and Ontario, as the biggest economies in our country, are getting equalization payments. They shouldn't just out of form be able to do this, because that, as Smith has noted, is not what equalization was meant for. So I think generally speaking, we're dealing with something where we're getting to base issues that weren't being dealt with under the Trudeau administration, likely going back to the Harper administration, to be honest with you. We were trying to figure out the last time whether we had one of these meetings in this province. I think we have to go back to 1985 when Grant Devine was saying, "Don't say woe in a mud hole," quite literally at these meetings. I know I was covering it. but this is how the country, such as well as it works. We get together with the premiers, we sort out problems, we have discussions. We don't threaten separation.
Weather specialist Helena Mahalik is back now for a look at the forecast, and looks like we are heading into a real scorcher.
Totally, Ethan. It's going to be a very hot weekend. We also saw a pretty hot day in the province, not as hot as it's going to be this weekend, but let's see just how warm it got this Friday. So as we can see, many places in south and central Saskatchewan got to or even above the 20-degree mark, especially in southern Saskatchewan, many places feeling quite warm there. And even in the north, the Churchill region, close to the 20-degree mark, and even the far north hovering just below that sort of area there. And then as we look at Friday evening, We're seeing a pretty clear night, but a lot of cloud coverage sort of starting to come in. There is a 30% chance of some evening showers in the northern grain belt areas there. So we are seeing some clouds coming in and a potential for some more showers in the north as well as we get into Saturday early morning, again near the La Ronge area. Those clouds continuing to stick with us despite the fact that it'll be a very warm day. There is a potential for some showers in the southwest corner near Swift Current, and again in the north, seeing some rainfall throughout the next few days, continuing into Sunday morning for places like La Ronge, and again, southwest near Swift Current. We are seeing those clouds continuing, and as we get into Sunday evening, some rain moving east towards the Yorkton areas. And as we get into Monday, way more rainfall is forecasted, and we will see a chance for some of that rain to come to central Saskatchewan near Saskatoon. Friday evening, we do see a little bit of a breeze in the southwest in areas near Swift Current. By Saturday overnight, we are seeing some of that wind moving to the southeast part of the province near Regina, up to 50 kilometers an hour winds there. Then as we get into Saturday afternoon, dying down just a little bit, but still up to 40 kilometers an hour winds. Sunday early morning, we are seeing those winds moving southwest towards areas like Saskatoon and Lloydminster. And then Sunday evening, moving towards the north, a bit of a breeze there, up to 40 kilometers an hour winds. Friday, we did see again temperatures in the 20-degree mark, so still feeling quite warm, but we will see a high pressure system coming in Saturday, bringing us temperatures close to or even exceeding the 30-degree mark. So feeling quite warm there. And even Sunday, same thing. Not every area will get to the 30-degree mark, but definitely the south is really going to be feeling that heat all throughout the weekend. And then as we get into Monday, we're still seeing that high pressure system, but rolling out just a little bit, bringing temperatures closer to seasonal. But Ethan, some places are still going to be feeling warm throughout the next few days.
Yeah, happy at least to see all that rain is coming because we definitely need it.
Totally. We need a little bit of relief from the heat.
All right, Helena, thanks so much.
Thanks, Ethan.
Well, Pope Leo XIV has celebrated his first Mass as the new leader of the Catholic Church, and he acknowledged the great responsibility that has been placed on him. Margaret Evans reports.
The dawn of a new era for the Catholic Church, albeit within the confines of ancient walls and traditions. Leo XIV delivered his first Mass as Pope in the Sistine Chapel, where the day before his former fellow cardinals elected him. Part of the homily delivered in his native tongue, a reminder that he is the first American pontiff.
As we celebrate this morning, I invite you to recognize the marvels that the Lord has done, the blessings that the Lord continues to pour out upon all of us.
The election of a new pope on Thursday was greeted with great joy here, followed by suspense as people waited for his identity to be revealed, and with surprise when it was.
It's American Pope. The first thing I could know more about him, I don't know anything.
69-year-old Robert Francis Prevost, now the 267th Catholic Pope, was born in Chicago, but he spent much of his pastoral life in Peru, where he's also a citizen. His focus on the world's downtrodden compared by some to Pope Francis.
I think it worked in his favor that he had experience outside of America. He had a broader view of the world, and that he was also in the Curia.
Vatican reporter Juno Arocha Estevez says the choice of an American still surprised him.
That's always been the standard. A cardinal from a superpower wouldn't be pope.
At a press conference, Canada's cardinals were also asked to weigh in on the first North American pope.
Okay, yeah. He's a Catholic pope, not a U.S. pope.
Cardinal Thomas Collins, former Archbishop of Toronto, points out Pope Leo was chosen by men of the Church who represent countries around the world.
The key thing about him is that he's a man of great spiritual depth, and that, he spent many, many years in South America.
The Pope's formal investiture will take place later this month with a ceremonial Mass here at St. Peter's Basilica. Leaders from around the world are expected to attend. Margaret Evans, CBC News, Rome.
Remember scenes like this? Don't mean to shock you, but the highways looked like this quite a bit this past winter, and it was a reason why Saskatchewan's highway hotline received a record number of visits, 60 million visits to be exact, between April of 2024 and March of this year. We'll see if we can maybe break that record again next winter, or not. Stay with us. We'll have a final look at your forecast and more news for you after the break. Rider Rookie Camp is wrapping up in Saskatoon, and some of the players have come from far and wide for a chance to play for the green and white. Australian punter Joe Couch, originally from Melbourne, is back for his second attempt to become the Riders' kicker. Couch attended rookie camp last year, and he impressed the Riders enough to be put on the practice roster. The 30-year-old played Australian rules football, then played in college in the U.S. Couch says kicking in the windy conditions on the prairies is an art.
You've got the field and it's blowing one wind one way and then it's going the opposite direction on the other side of the field. So it's definitely a craft, and I think for you to be the best punter you can playing in Saskatchewan is going to make you a better punter because your technique just has to be so spot on.
Just a boomer of a leg, you know, and I know his thing he wanted to work on the most this offseason was just his placement, man, and you know, for him to have self-reflection on that and put a full offseason into that, looking forward to, you know, when we have full special teams periods to see, you know, that work come to fruition for him.
Couch hopes to follow in the footsteps of former Rider punter and fellow Aussie Adam Corsack, who retired this year. If Couch makes the team, he won't be the only Australian. The Riders recently signed fellow kicker Bailey Flint, also hailing from Melbourne. And Helena's back for a weekend forecast that makes it feel like the Australian heat.
Totally. Well, it'll be a good weekend for football if you like playing in the heat, Ethan. Temperatures are going to be very warm, close to the 30-degree mark. Let's take a look at just how hot it's going to get in Regina. As we can see, Saturday and Sunday, close to 30 degrees or even exceeding that. Normally, temperatures would be around 18 for seasonal. Saturday, 32 degrees. But then as we get into the rest of the week, we are seeing, you know, some relief from the heat as we see some rainfall coming in. There is a chance of some thunderstorms Sunday and Monday, and we are seeing overnight lows above seasonal. But then as we get into the rest of the week, as that rainfall comes and temperatures drop down, we'll be seeing those overnight lows return to about seasonal. Same story in Saskatoon. We're seeing some sunny days and the warm weekend, not quite as hot, not reaching that 30 degree, but still quite warm. And we will see some rainfall as we get into our work week, bringing temperatures down just a little bit. We'll have a few days of a breeze here and there. And again, overnight temperatures will be quite hot, but then as the week goes on and that rain kind of cools things down, we'll see temperatures, Ethan, return to below seasonal or just about seasonal for this time of year.
Yeah, bring on that rain. All right. Thanks, Helena.
Totally. Thanks, Ethan.
And that is it for us for this week. For more news, you can head to our website or subscribe to our YouTube channel or download the CBC News app on your smartphone or tablet. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend.